Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
Going to be talking all things diet now. Unprocessing your diet in 30 days is the new guide to cutting out processed food. And I'm delighted to say that Johannes Cullberg joins me live now. Johannes, good morning to you. Where are you today, by the way? Whereabouts are you? Where do we find you on the planet?
I'm in Thailand at the moment, so enjoying warm weather, and I've been here for 8 weeks, so pretty nice.
There are worse places to be in the world. We know that, as the saying goes, you are what you eat. But what sort of sparked you to writing Unprocess Your Diet?
Well, I've been working with food and health for over 20 years. I actually I established Lidl, the hard discount chain in Norway back in 2002, and I opened in 2004. So I've been really into this world for a long time. I've been working with the big food companies of the world, and in the beginning, I thought it was amazing and fun, but I also was kind of shocked to learn what the product contained, and that the worst product that I wouldn't eat were the ones selling the most already back then.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm born in the 60s, and so therefore during the 70s, it was part of the big super chain in the UK. We changed from having high street stores and a grocer and a butcher and a fishmonger. And it was seen as the new thing to do. The modern way was to go to supermarkets and get everything under one. And there were these, and the whole way that we produced food had changed. And there were mega farms. And this was the ease of the consumer. I mean, I even remember TV dinners, which will probably make you shudder, Johannes. But that was the way that we were brought up. And we thought, well, this is the way of the future. This is how it's going to go.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's been just going on. The development has been kind of slow in the perception of the consumer. You don't notice the changes, but if you look at like 10 or 20 years perspective, there have been massive changes where real food has moved out to the corners of the store, and in the center of the store, the centerpieces are the ultra processed foods with beautiful packaging, great prices, and tasty stuff that everybody likes. So it's not strange.
Yeah, but and to a certain extent, we are being I don't want to say lied to, but being misled, because while we have had foods, and there is people know that they have to eat healthier. We are getting those messages all the way through. But the marketing, the packaging you just said, they are misleading people and thinking they're having something healthy or homegrown, or they're saying it's free of this, but they're not saying it's chock full of other things. So you've got to be really careful when you're weighing up what you think is healthy.
Exactly. And I would actually go as far as to say that we are being lied to. This is very similar to the tobacco industry that knew for a long time before everybody else caught on how dangerous it actually is to smoke. And they were hiding the research that they knew that it was causing cancer. And this is the same thing for the big food companies. They know exactly what this food is doing, but they would obviously not put that on some warning labels or anything like that. So they're fighting it with everything they've got to make this the preferred food.
So, I mean, I suppose it's a process of education. And the worrying thing is, it's also and this is a very British thing, it's a class thing, because people who are on low incomes have fast food pushed towards them, have easy options pushed towards them, and this is one of my particular things I get angry about, because a very good friend of mine, who ran restaurants in London and was a food critic, she gave that up, and she took a library, a mobile library, a van, and she took fresh products into some of the poorest areas of Liverpool, like a mobile greengrocer. And people would come up to her and they wouldn't realize how to cook stuff. And they wouldn't realize it was cheaper because they were being fed the information that it's more convenient to go just, to order in something, to get a takeout. And, as she educated people, they got it. So it's not a case of people don't want to eat healthy. It's that they're not getting the messages.
I agree 100%. And this is the danger with the ultra-processed foods, because the younger generations, and especially in areas like you say, where there actually is basically no option, they unlearn how to cook. They never learn how to cook, because you don't have to. You just have to pop it into the oven or the micro, or just eat it straight from the package. So why would you bother? And it's so convenient just to eat it like it is. And if you look at your grandparents or your family's recipes, maybe you come from another country, we're losing these cultural traditions, and food is one of the things that really connect people. It's been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years, sitting by the fire, eating food together, and it's going away.
Yeah, interesting. You're in Thailand. You will know that, in the big hotels, you have the buffets, and these wonderful buffets all the way through. And I was in a hotel, I'm on the Mediterranean, and it's a cultural thing as well, because this was many nationalities all sitting down for their evening meal. They have fresh fruit and fresh salads and the whole thing. And you could tell the British, because they didn't have anything green on their plate.
Well, basically, I would say you could also see the Swedes right now, because this is a growing phenomenon where the vegetables, you have the Italian, the French, they've really stuck with their nice food culture, but it's going away in so many countries. And scarily here in Thailand, where I've been like the last 4 years, spending my winters, you can see that overweight and obesity has increased 36% in the last 6 years, and especially in the urban areas, because the tempo is high. The markets, the local markets don't exist. They can't afford to be there. And the 7-Elevens and all these kind of shops with just fast stuff, the toast that you heat and whatnot, is just growing everywhere.
And this is something that's going to come, because this is a vicious circle that people cannot get out of. Lack of education, poor diet leads to obesity. And only this week we saw people saying, we have to re-identify what it means to be obese. Yeah. And if we look at, I remember going to the States 40 years ago and being amazed by people, shall we say, and yet that is now happening in Europe. It's happening in China with fast food. We recognize this. What is the process that makes ultra-processed food so dangerous for us all?
Well, it's a good question, and there's been a few really well-made studies. It was one, the most well-known is by Kevin D. Hall, made in 2019, where he took 20 people in two separate groups. One group ate 100% ultra-processed foods and the other 100% real foods for 2 weeks, then a washout period, and then they switched. They were isocaloric, meaning they were exactly energy-wise the same. But what he identified was that the group who ate ultra-processed foods ate much faster, because there's basically no fiber in this food. There's very little nutrients, and there's excess calories or energy. So you get worthless calories, basically, and you eat them fast. So the group that ate ultra-processed foods ate 500 calories more per day, which meant they gained half a kilo per week, so 1 kilo in 2 weeks. And the group that ate real foods lost a kilo, because these were Americans and normally eat quite a lot of ultra-processed foods. So it's the main thing is lack of nutrients, lack of fibers, and lots of really poor fats and salt and lots of sugar.
And of course, the salts and sugar, that means that you're increasing your cravings, you're getting the energy high from the sugar, and then it's dropping off a cliff, as the saying goes. Yeah. And so this is the reason that people who eat fast food, 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, can really think, okay, I could really do with another one of those burgers or those fries or whatever.
Yeah, and you can't see this, but what I'm wearing on my arm is a glucose monitor. And this is something I teach my clients also as a health coach to put them on your arm. It's what diabetics get offered from healthcare. And it's so amazing because you can see instantly, 15, 20 minutes after you've eaten, you see your glucose spike if you eat that kind of food, compared to eating like vegetables or protein or real food. Basically nothing happens. And just seeing the effect of this kind of food in your stomach or in your body is amazing, because like you say, you get this high spikes and then a crash, and then you instantly want to eat more.
So where do we begin then, Johannes? How do we recognize what is good? Are we dispelling some foods that we think are good and they're not, and some foods that we think are bad and they are? So I'm always taught, vegetables, fruit, but be careful with the fruit. For example, I like figs, but they're huge in sugar, for example. What should we be doing? Should we be looking at what we're eating, and if you like, monitoring what and almost keeping a notebook to say, okay, this is what I've got?
I don't think it has to be that complicated.
Right.
I think Brazil has the best way of dealing with this. They created a national food guideline 2014, just saying, number one, eat real food. That means food with one ingredient, stuff that we've always been eating, like chicken, fish, eggs, broccoli, carrots, It doesn't really, you don't have to go down into the details and try to sort of find which one has the highest protein or the largest amount of fiber and so on. If you just stick to that basic rule, you're in a very good position.
But people would say, chicken, but we've had this whole thing. It's full of chemicals. How do we know what is good chicken, what is bad chicken? Same with fish. I mean, obviously Swedish, fish in Sweden is huge. I'm a big fan of the herring, and the Swedish anchovies. But how do we know? Because I go and buy chicken, but I go and get the chicken from the supermarket. How do I know that brand of chicken, of its own brand, from say a Lidl, for example, is actually, it hasn't been factory farmed, it hasn't been pumped full of chemical? How do we know that, Johannes?
Well, if you are in Europe, you have quite strict regulations on like antibiotics for the animals. And still, I wouldn't be so granular, because if you choose a fresh chicken breast, even though if it's the brand of Lidl, or which has really good quality, by the way, or any other grocery chain, it's still going to be so much better than the chicken nuggets or the like really ultra processed version. So don't get caught up in the details. Just if you do the basic stuff right. So eat real food, learn how to cook it and cook together. So what I do with my kids from they were little, I have had them go to the store, pick out what they want to cook, and we make the meal together. And when the kids are cooking with you, they are more likely to eat because they've been part of it, and they get it sort of into the system. But starting to cook is key. You really have to start to cook again.
And here's the thing, and I know we're going to go off on a little left field here, but cooking is. I mean, I talked about my friend with the mobile grocers, but she found that it became a focal point for the community, because people would talk, how do I make this? And then, which you don't do in a supermarket. You don't talk to your neighbor in the supermarket, because you just go in as a consumer, you buy, you go out. But with a food provider, at a butcher, whatever, there is a conversation. And the same with cooking. We talk about our families being split apart and not bonding, as if we have to say, okay, now we have to have bonding time. But there's nothing more communal than anybody who's had a barbecue, for example. There's nothing more communal than a barbecue, because people talk and you don't want to do this and you want to flip it over that, and this is something that we need to bring back.
I agree 100%. And if you look at the screens that I'm holding in my hand, the phone, if you also just ditch them, they don't belong at a table. So once we start talking to each other again, it's going to take longer time to eat, which means our fullness signals from our stomach to our brain is going to have time to go there. You're going to be able to chew your food more while you're listening to the other person talking. So you're going to slow down the tempo of eating. And that's also a really key thing, because, like I said, the fast food, you just munch it down and throw it down your throat, and then boom, you can have seconds. So that's why you call the French paradox, why the Americans thought the French, how can they survive eating, lots of fat and drinking wine and smoking cigarettes? Well, they actually really sit together and talk. The dinners take time, and they don't eat so much.
So it's not so much as It is what you eat, but it's how you eat it as well. Screens and restaurants are my thing. At home, there's a no screen rule. Yeah, there is, no mobiles on at the table. Because again, conversation and taking time, and the more you masticate, and the more you eat, the better it is for you.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm trying to communicate in everything I do on social media and in my books. The big food companies want to make it complicated to go back to eating the way we did before. And that's why they push this convenience factor, so you can eat on the go. It's so practical. And we want to go away from that. We want to be inconvenient. Inconvenience is the way we've always had it. And it can be really nice because it creates a little bit of friction, and friction causes communication, like you said, and then you have a dialogue, and suddenly we start talking about things we didn't talk about before. So it's amazing. A
very good Spanish friend of mine had a girlfriend that he split up with, and he's old style Spanish, so lunch is a 3-hour affair every day, that's the thing. Spain, Mediterranean diet. And I said to him, the girl was beautiful. Why didn't you want to go out with her anymore? And he said, Giles, the problem was we went out once and she wanted to have lunch. She used to eat lunch standing up, and that for him was enough.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That's why I fell in love with my wife 18 years ago. She made the most amazing food, the salads and anything that she makes just tastes amazing. And to me, love comes through the heart, to the stomach.
Well, you mentioned false food claims. Just explain a little bit about what you mean by that.
So what I mean is, if you take like a box of cereals, what they highlight is mostly stuff that actually won't make a difference. They talk about lots of fibers, for example. Yeah. And, of course, fibers in general are good. But when it comes packaged in like a mush of other stuff and lots of sugar, it doesn't really, it won't do any good for you. So they're very clever. Obviously, they won't, on their boxes, on their packaging, they wouldn't get away with writing something that's not correct. But there are also several examples of studies being made, paid for by the big food corporations, trying to shift the focus from what's actually bad and move it to so they don't talk about food. They want to talk that we exercise too little, for example, which is bullshit. I mean, obviously, everybody should move more, but that's not the problem. That's not why we get fat. And so it's a clever way of lying, because they're protecting the sort of the covering it up and shifting the focus of the conversation in different areas.
So if they're saying this is rich in fiber, yes, it may be rich in fiber, but it's also rich in sugar, in preservatives, in whatever else. And as part of a healthy lifestyle, yeah, that's fine, but you've got to look at the lifestyle as well. If it's the weekend, it's Friday, Johannes, I'm doing my meal prep. What am I? And I'm, normally it's down to the supermarket, straight to the pizza section. And I know I should be making my own. So how do I change? What are the first little steps? Because you say 30 days, which sounds like an amazing change. But what are the first, let's do everything in small steps. What are the first steps I should take?
So in Sweden, we would have a taco Friday. That's a weird thing that we eat tacos in Sweden, but it's a huge tradition. And what that means is the taco in itself isn't actually that bad, because you get the minced meat, you get sort of some vegetables and the pita bread and whatever, tortilla bread. But it's what also comes with it. It's the soda, it's the ice cream that you have afterwards. It's the candy that most people have in Sweden on Fridays and Saturdays. So, but the basic thing, the first thing I would change is the drinking, because drinking, like the sort of empty calories, you can get so much energy into your body, and especially for children when they're young. That's a lot. And then you could say, okay, so I'll have Diet Coke instead. Well, then you get all the sweeteners and also a lot of caffeine. And the sweeteners, we know now from unpaid research, not bought research, that it's actually causing problems for your gut. And it also causes you to eat more because the stomach doesn't get the nutrients or the energy that it thought it would get from the mouth when the mouth signaled, here's something sweet. So it causes you to overeat. And so I would start with drinking more water and maybe have some lemon into the water or some fruits or berries or whatever. And then I would look at the desserts and maybe switch the really crappy ice cream where it's so cheap, you can just put a binge sort of bowl and just, it doesn't matter because it doesn't cost anything. And buy real ice cream instead. It's much more expensive, but you would enjoy it. Tastes way better and just have a little bit. So you don't have to completely throw out everything that you love, but by focusing on the things that has the biggest impact, you can do quite a big change. And that's, I think the biggest problems that people make is that they try to do everything at once. So start with the drinks. And then you pick the next thing that you are very sort of like the nacho chips or the potato chips. And you try to maybe make your own kale chips or especially have popcorn. Popcorns are way better than the Doritos and all this stuff. So small changes.
And you will see the benefits very quickly. I mean, not only the way that you're digesting, but also, you know, what you put in your mouth has an effect on your brain, an effect on your thinking, an effect on your mood.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, the mental, changes are huge. I've coached in my team maybe over 10,000 people. So what happens when we change their diet is the first week, most of them actually get sick. Yeah. It's called the keto flu, and it's because we take away quite a lot of these sugars. But after a week, when they get through it, the sort of a clarity of mind and the energy, they get happy because suddenly the stomach can produce endorphins again. And so the mood, the energy, and just feeling more alive. And it's amazing. And obviously you will start to lose weight.
And in a world where we're being told that people should be getting injections and pills to lose weight, if only my listeners could see your face there, Johannes. You know, there's a much cheaper and healthier and fun way of doing it than sticking something else in your body. Absolutely. And it's crazy because our clients lose about 8% of their body weight in 30 days of following the diet, which is basically just eating real food. And we help them to get full by eating more protein and more vegetables. It's crazy to see that. And instead of having this Ozempic and all this bullshit, for some, it could be good to sort of when they're really, really in a tough spot. But then they have to learn how to shift and change their lifestyle because otherwise you're on it for life. And that's why for the big medical companies, this is the dream come true. You have so many millions of people now being basically addicted to these injections because once they stop, they go back in a second. Yeah. And they've lost all their muscle. Indeed. The book is called Unprocess Your Diet in 30 Days. It is by Johannes Cullberg. Johannes, if people want to find you online, social media, websites, where's the best place to find you? So online is Johannes Cullberg. Cullberg is Cullberg, and johannescullberg.com. And those would be the best ways to find me. And you can order the book via our own virtual bookstore. The book is called Unprocess Your Diet in 30 Days. It's by Johannes Cullberg. Johannes, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Giles.